the Fed has more tools at its disposal than the textbooks originally taught us. During the financial crisis, as interest rates approached zero, people thought that the Fed was going to be sort of out of ammunition, and clearly the Fed has shown that it's not out of ammunition. And as you think about this important point you've made about the growing disparities in the labor market, certainly returning to full employment and the strategy you've outlined for allowing the economy to run at full employment is one way of addressing those disparities. Is there thinking within the Fed about tools that are clearly within your mandate that are sort of more creative, if you will, that will help you think about ways in which to more directly, if you will, address these disparity issues, other than the blunt instrument of just the federal funds rate?
So we're an unusual organization because we have a very specific mandate and very powerful tools, important mandate, and we have this grant of independence, meaning that that under current law, our decisions can't be reversed, and we have long terms, and they're not synchronized with election cycles or anything like that. So, and that should be a rare in a healthy, functioning democracy. That should be rare because most things should be subjected to to regular popular democracy, and because of our unusual nature, of course, we work really hard to be transparent and find accountability and therefore democratic legitimacy. It's very important that we do that. But I think given our precious independence, which allows us to do things without regard to politics and without regard to political cycles, I think people generally understand that that's a good thing. That's an institutional arrangement that has served the public well. But the other side of that is we do not seek to venture into what is effectively fiscal policy. When you're talking about targeting groups who are very needy, very worthy, and targeting them with resources, that's fiscal policy. That's what you're elected to do. Nobody elected us. And so I feel like it's very important that we stick to our assignment from Congress, maximum employment, price stability. Well, of course, we're also involved in bank regulation, the payment system, and other things. But I do think the tools you describe really are tools of fiscal policy specifically. And we do not seek them. I mean, I think we should stick with what we're doing and let the fiscal authorities do what they do.
It's a very important point you made. I asked the question as a teacher because I think it's important for people to understand the distinction between what the Fed does and what other people might like the Fed to do.
Very important. I agree, Peter.
Since you brought up the issue of transparency, I'd love to ask a question about that. Now, transparency is obviously something that can have different degrees, and everybody's in favor of transparency. But some people take transparency to a very far extreme. I mean, the most extreme case I can think of is Ray Dalio's firm that literally has every conversation recorded and posted so everybody can see everybody talking to everybody else. I presume you wouldn't want that degree of transparency at the Fed. I've wondered, in talking to former Federal Reserve governors, whether the transparency rules have gone too far in some cases to make it hard for governors to have informal meetings among themselves. Do you think it's in some dimensions maybe we've gone too far in requiring transparency, and therefore make it hard for the Fed to have private conversations?
I guess I would say it this way. There are some aspects of the transparency scheme broadly that are that if I had a blank sheet of paper, I wouldn't do them that way. And you mentioned government in the sunshine, and we can only have a certain number of governors, and so that's not great. And actually, we got a waiver of that during the acute phase of the crisis. We got a legal waiver in the first CARES Act. So, and that enabled us to not have to worry about that, be able to talk. So I do think that is challenging. If for the 6 governors to have lunch together, we have to just be super careful. And it's like, anyway, but I will say that by and large, I think the transparency, the move to far greater transparency really over the last almost 30 years now, high 20s, has really served the public well and is appropriate in our system of government. We are so transparent now, and by the way, we keep finding new ways to be transparent, and I think it works. We're very focused on on my colleagues and I are on engaging with those who have oversight over us in our form of government. And that's the legislature in our form of government. In many others, it's the finance ministry. But here, that's who has oversight. So we're up there a lot. That's more transparency, more press conferences, more reports. And I think it generally has been a very successful program. That's not to say, though, as you point out, that there aren't a couple of things that I would, in the dark of night or otherwise, be willing to change.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.